Teddy Marshall had never been an anxious man. But tonight, every tick of the clock sounded like a countdown. Harry hadn't come home, hadn't answered his messages, and the silence in the house felt wrong, heavy, almost staged. He called George Knight. "Mate, it's probably nothing," George said calmly, trying to steady his friend's breathing. "Harry's with Kojo. You know what teenagers are like. Goes off, forgets to text." Teddy nodded, pretending to believe it. But something in George's tone didn't sit right. Hours later, the phone finally rang. Harry's voice was shaky, distant. "Dad, I'm fine. Just staying with a mate." Relief flooded Teddy's chest for a second, because in the background, faint but audible, came a whisper. "Say it again." The voice didn't belong to Harry, it belonged to someone else. Harry sat in darkness, wrists bound, the air thick with fear. Ravi Patel leaned against the wall, his phone lighting up his face. "You should have just told us where the camera was, mate." "I did," Harry pleaded. "It's behind the bar at Peggy's." From the corner, Oki chuckled. "And yet no laptop," Ravi sighed, irritated. "I told you, once he talks, we let him go." Oki stepped closer, his grin sharp. "And ruin the fun? Nah, mate. He's leveraged now." The door slammed. Outside, footsteps echoed, and for a fleeting moment, Harry thought someone was coming to save him. But salvation wasn't coming yet. Across Walford, Gina Knight spotted Oki walking out of the gym, casual smile, charm in his eyes. "Hey, Gina," he said smoothly. "You look like you could use a drink." She didn't know that the man before her had just left her boyfriend chained in a warehouse basement. The night grew colder. Gina sat across from Oki at the Albert, his laugh echoing above the music. She smiled politely, but something about him felt off. "Harry's been quiet lately," she said, testing him. Oki leaned in, eyes dark. "Maybe he's got secrets." Back in the hideout, Harry's phone buzzed again, with a text from Gina flashing across the cracked screen. "Call me when you can." Oki saw it later and smirked. "Your girl's worried. Sweet, isn't it? Maybe I'll give her a call to keep her company." Harry's anger flared. "You stay away from her." Oki just laughed. "Then you better behave." The camera in the corner blinked red, recording everything. But this wasn't the surveillance Ravi had ordered. This was Oki's own blackmail archive. He wasn't just holding Harry hostage. He was building an empire on secrets. Meanwhile, far from the streets of Walford, Balvinder Sopal, EastEnders' own Panasar matriarch, was gliding across the Strictly stage, her sequined gown glowing beneath the lights. The music faded, applause roared, and then silence. Judge Shirley Ballas leaned forward. "The footwork was not good!" Boos erupted from the audience. Balvinder smiled through it, graceful, composed, but behind her eyes, something flickered. Backstage, Julian, her dance partner whispered. "Ignore her. You were perfect." But the whispers had already started online. Underscored. Targeted. They're trying to push her out. What fans didn't know was that someone was leaking rehearsal footage, a shadow account tied back to a burner phone registered in East London. The same area Oki operated in. Coincidence? Or another piece of a puzzle too dangerous to ignore? Across town, Ross Marshall pushed open his front door to find chaos. Vicky's phone on the floor, blood on the carpet, and Joel, his teenage son, sitting in silence, hands trembling. "What have you done?" Ross whispered. Joel's voice cracked. "She made me angry, Dad, she." Ross backed away, disbelief drowning him. He'd ignored the signs the dark online groups Joel followed, the way he spoke about women, the growing hatred in his eyes. Now it was too late. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Ross sank to the floor. He didn't know it yet, but this act of violence would ripple through Walford, pulling him into the same shadowy web that had ensnared Teddy, Harry, and even Balvinder herself. Because the footage of Joel's attack, someone already had it. And that someone was Oki. In a cramped flat above a pawn shop, Oki typed rapidly on his laptop, screens flickering. One window showed Harry, weak and pale. Another showed rehearsal clips of Balvinder and Julian. A third footage from Ross's house security camera. He was building something massive, a digital network of blackmail and control. Ravi stormed in. "What the hell are you doing, bro? You were supposed to let Harry go." Oki turned, smirking. "Relax, he's useful. They all are." Ravi slammed his fist on the table. "You've crossed a line." But Oki didn't care. He was already too deep, too powerful, too obsessed. Downstairs, a delivery truck pulled up and a man stepped out, George Knight. He'd tracked Oki's movements after Teddy's desperate calls. George was about to walk straight into the lion's den. George pushed open the warehouse door. The stench hit him first, damp, rust, and fear. Then he heard it. A faint voice. "Help, please." He followed the sound, torch trembling in his hand. There, chained to a radiator, was Harry. "Harry!" George rushed forward, unhooking the chains. The boy collapsed into his arms. "Where's Oki?" Harry shook his head weakly. "Gone. He's after Gina." George's blood ran cold. He called Teddy, voice sharp with urgency. "I've got him, but you need to find Gina now." Outside, Oki's car sped through the rain, tires screeching. He wasn't heading home. He was heading straight for the Vic, where Gina was waiting, still oblivious. Inside the Vic, Gina sat with Anna, piecing together fragments of truth. Harry wouldn't just disappear, not without saying goodbye. The door creaked open. Oki stepped inside, soaked, smiling. "Hey, Gina, fancy seeing you here." Anna frowned. "Do we know you?" Oki shrugged. "You will." Before anyone could react, George burst in. "Get away from her!" The room froze. Oki reached into his jacket, but George was faster. He tackled him to the ground, knocking the device from his hand. It slid across the floor, revealing live camera feeds. Harry's cell, Balvinder's dressing room, Ross's house. Everyone gasped. Oki's empire of secrets lay exposed. Police flooded the Vic. Oki was dragged out in cuffs, still smirking. "You think it's over?" he hissed at George. "It's bigger than me." Outside, Teddy held Harry close, tears cutting through the grime on his face. At the same moment, Balvinder stood backstage at Strictly, her phone buzzing with notifications. The leaked clips were gone. Her scores had been corrected. Justice, finally. And across town, Ross sat in the hospital beside Vicky's bed, whispering apologies. "I should have seen it. I should have stopped him." But somewhere deep in the web, another screen flickered to life. A hidden drive. A backup Oki had made. Because even in defeat, he'd ensured one thing. The secrets of Walford would never truly stay buried. Days later, the community gathered at Peggy's. George poured drinks. Teddy thanked him quietly. "If you hadn't gone looking," George smiled faintly. "That's what we do, mate. We look out for our own." Gina wrapped her arms around Harry, who stared into space, broken but alive. As music played softly in the background, the camera panned across the pub, Balvinder laughing with friends, Ross sitting alone, the weight of guilt heavy on his shoulders. And in the corner, unnoticed, a man slipped a flash drive into his pocket before walking out into the rain.